How to find a software engineering job? That's a good question, right? It's a question that can pull you into so many different directions because there's just so many things to look at and even get intimidated from. And not to mention, it can be pretty challenging to land a software engineering role, especially if you have limited experience. You may be having feelings of being very anxious to not even feel like you fit in, or this may just even be a career change for you and you're just trying to get into a new field that has a pretty promising employment trend, and not to mention it's a pretty cool area as well where you can work in pretty much any field and still have a really big impact. It is actually more straightforward and easier than you would think to land these types of roles. So yeah, this video can pretty much apply to, to pretty much any of the technical fields, modern day technical fields, such as, just being an IT person on the job, or being like a PM at a specific company. Since this video is an emphasis on software engineering, I just want to say what software engineering is. It is a systematic application in the area of, scientific or technical knowledge, which either applies to implementation, testing, or documentation. In layman's terms, you're writing code, you're developing it, maintaining it, and you're just keeping it clean for the next person to pick up. So yeah, once you kind of go into looking for these roles, or just Googling these type of roles, it can send you in so many different directions, and sometimes you may not even know where to go. So I think one of the very first things that you need to do in your journey of finding a software engineering role is to hone down on a specific target. A good analogy I have for this is that you would not walk into the grocery store and throw every single item you see in your cart. You're just throwing things in your cart. You're gonna waste a lot of time in the grocery store, and by the time you check out, it's just gonna be very expensive. So why not? So when you hone down on your very specific, such as on your grocery list, you're putting in specific items, you're getting out the grocery store faster, and you're spending less money at the same time. That is nonetheless to say that analogy kind of applies to the grocery store items being software engineering applications. You want to hone down and be specific, and just don't apply for every single, just off the wall application that you see. I don't think that's a really great strategy, because I think it's just something that's gonna stress you out even more in the long run. And I think you should move with a little bit of organization and focus around what kind of role you want to specifically land. I think you need to ask yourself a series of questions so you can hold on your focus, and we'll just get into those different questions you should ask yourself right now. You need to think about whether or not you want to work remote or in person. You also need to figure out if you want to work for a small company or a big company. And not to mention, this is a valuable question to ask as well. Do you want to be a contractor or a full-time employee at this respective place? And this advice for this video is going to mainly lean towards going for those full-time roles, just a heads up. So yeah, and I would even add on top of that, ask yourself, what type of industry do you want to be in? Because by keeping it specific to an industry that you're passionate about, it can make your work feel even more so meaningful. And yeah, I kind of just gave it away with that last example, but you also, next thing you want to think about is, what skill set do you specifically want to hone? Do you want to be front end? Do you want to work on microservices? Maybe do you want to do back end? Or do you want to work with tuning machine learning models? There's really a broad breadth of work that you could potentially work on, and circling down on, at most, like 2 or 3 of those categories can help you aim more strongly when applying for roles. And not to mention, make sure the company is also a culture fit, because if you think about it, you can get really big salaries at some places, but big salary does not always equal happiness. It really does not, because with that big salary, you may be working like 10+ hour days, and not to mention being an on-call engineer, getting calls at 2 a.m. in the morning to fix production failures. There's many different things that happen with that. Just make sure that, again, the role that you're going for, even if, at the stage that you do get the offer, it is also a culture fit at the same time. It's a really, really important piece. All right, cool. So you ask those questions, you kind of hone down on a specific skill set a little bit. What's next in the list? It's the way, now you want to focus on, more so discovering these roles that are in your specific buckets of roles that you would actually be happy to be in. So yeah, some reliable job boards, just to let you know, some are LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Monster, Indeed. They all post opportunities for software engineering daily from all ranges of different types of companies that you can take a look at. And there's just really a lot of different applications you can go ahead and read through and take the time to look at. So again, my tip of advice is when you're looking through all these applications, there's gonna be quite a lot that have skills and require stuff that you currently don't have knowledge of. And first of all, that is okay. You can still apply for that role. The most they could say is no at the end of the day. Again, if you didn't have like anything related to that role, just really don't be surprised or put your hopes too high. But I feel like if you did have a couple of things on that list, but maybe a couple of things were missing at the same time, still apply. Your chances are actually still pretty high because they make these applications super big and super long, and it can kind of become a little bit intimidating if you don't really know how this works. You think that you need every single detail on that list to land a role, and that is not true at all. You don't need every single detail, but I do feel like it's a really good guide because those details are your cheat sheet. These are the specific things that you should probably take the time to look into. So for example, if I looked at about 20 or 30 applications and I see that for the specific jobs that I'm going for, everybody is looking for mostly a React developer, like React is just the new and greatest thing, I should probably take the time in my free time to build some side projects with React, just get some sort of experience so I could go ahead and throw that on my resume and have something to talk about in an interview from, you know, just your personal views on it, the infrastructure. You know, I feel like a big part of this field, which is very possible, is just creating the opportunities for yourself. You can really build your own little steps to get into the doors for these roles instead of just thinking that you can never reach that level. It's actually very possible. So I just want to leave you with that advice. Think of it like a cheat sheet a little bit when you see those specific things, especially as a pattern on multiple applications. These are things you can learn, get better at. So when you apply, you check the box for that. You have something to talk about. So yeah, just even more or so discovering roles from those different job boards. I feel like there's many different ones out there. I think there's even hundreds. So I think a really good thing to do is to just type in Google a very simple search. Just go ahead and Google XYZ software engineering job, and then you have this optional area over here. So what you're gonna do is for that XYZ, that's the specific category of what you want to look for. Say I want to be a React front-end developer. I'm gonna put React front-end software engineering jobs, and the optional is really for location. You have to figure out again if you want to be in person or remote, you know, considering where this job at is a really big part as well. So again, if I was in the Bay Area, I would probably put San Francisco. I'll probably put San Francisco, San Jose at the end of that, put that in the Google, and you're gonna get some pretty cool results from that. It's a very simple search. Follow this format. It doesn't have to be too complicated, and you're gonna see great opportunities in Google Jobs that are pretty up to date for these type of roles that you're specifically looking for. And you can even switch the XYZ out for a specific company that you're really gunning for. So say you really just want to work at Google, you can just search Google software. You can search Google software engineering jobs, and then, you know, with the optional space, it works again. Just put the location. Oh, I want to work in Seattle. Just throw Seattle on the end of that, and it will show you the different opportunities that it has available in Seattle. So yeah, the Google Jobs page is really, really great, and I think that's just another way to discover jobs. Not to mention, your network is your net worth. This is a really true quote, and I feel like the group chats that you're in play a very big role. There's a lot of great opportunities posted in group chats. I've seen it firsthand where someone posted, hey, so-and-so company is hiring new hires. Anybody who's about to graduate wants to interview with them, send them my way. And I've seen it happen with my own eyes. Someone in that group chat said yes, they got the interview, and they were even fortunate enough to say yes to the offer. So don't knock group chats. It may not always be win-win, but you want to be able to work as many channels of discovery as possible, especially when it comes to software engineering jobs. So make sure you get a part of really good group chats. I know a lot of them are, you know, in GroupMe and Slack. There's a lot of different, you know, communities out there. I'm gonna go to my next point, conferences. Conferences is a really other great point. It's a really other great way to discover, you know, opportunities, especially opportunities that aren't necessarily posted on the site. Sometimes, you know, companies are coming there, and it's even happened to me where I've gotten job offers on the spot at conferences. I got interviewed. They pulled me aside in the corner, asked me a few questions, and they gave me the offer. Even at those conferences can spark group chats of their own, which continue throughout the year, and people will post opportunities in them. So don't underestimate group chats. Make sure you take a look at them every now and then, because there could be some pretty cool opportunities in them. Not to mention, networking events are actually pretty good as well. You know, just technical meetups that aren't necessarily geared around career fairs, or even have the whole, you know, we're offering jobs title tied to it. I can even speak firsthand where I went to a networking event in my city right now, and a guy was there, and he asked me first. He was like, "Hey, you know Java?" I was like, "Yeah, I know Java." You know, he asked me where I work at and everything. I wasn't leaving where I was working at, but he asked me like, "Hey, do you know anyone who knows Java?" And shoot, this job, it offers it's 140K, and it's hybrid. You go into the office some days and you work from home some days. And this was just subtly put out there at a networking event. This was the manager recruiting for roles that are directly under him. And I just feel like there's just a lot of unhidden power behind those networking events. And I think like you should just really go to those with an open mind. Don't expect that to always happen, but it's just gonna put you in just a really good space. And again, just introduce you to another community to discover new opportunities in tech, even just outside of being hired. You know, just learning about the latest new trends, or just the latest news that's going to be happening in the industry. That networking one kind of leads to this next point, and I think this is one of the most powerful ways of discovering and just getting to that interviewing phase. Like your application just isn't in a pool. You know, you actually do hold some pretty strong leverage. It's literally working your network, knowing someone in the company or highly, you know, affiliated with that company who can vouch for you. This is highly underrated. Yeah, I said the other thing was highly underrated. It is, but this is probably the most underrated thing. A lot of these people at these different companies are, you know, pulling in different people from their school. They're pulling in friends. They're pulling in, you know, people that they worked at previous companies. There's a such thing as referral programs in companies. Having someone internally versus not having someone, it's a completely different leverage game that just gives you way more leverage for your application to be looked at than someone who doesn't know anybody. From starting the interview process, I've started interview processes immediately because I knew a recruiter personally from, you know, alumni affiliation. So my application got moved to the top, and I was able to interview in like less than a day of submitting in less than like 2 days of submitting my application. And it is really, really cool, because even if both people, you know, person that has the internal candidate versus the person that doesn't have the internal candidate, when it comes to a lot of those final decisions, especially when it's neck and neck, if someone is able to vouch for you, especially someone notable and respectable in that company, it gives you so much more weight that you're gonna get all the extra bounty points over this person for, hey, we gotta figure out who to give this offer to. They're looking at, okay, how did these two square up? You're just way ahead of the curve on everyone. All right, so I do want to mention this as well. There is a more, you know, adventurous and fruitful route when it comes to looking for software and engineering positions. And I feel like this is looking at those smaller companies in the tech industry is called startups. And the easy way that you can find these startups is venture capitalism firms. A lot of venture capitalism is around the tech industry nowadays, and you could typically just go to, you know, a venture capitalist website, clients, and you can see all the list of different tech clients that they do support, and you could just take that list. It's literally like a sheet of just companies for you to specifically look at. Go on that sheet, go to those specific companies' websites, see if they have openings, and just apply at that type of level for those smaller positions. So those smaller positions is just something to think about when I say, you know, big versus small company You know, it's typically startups, you know, nowadays, and they do have different benefits, you know, from a money perspective. You know, a big company may just pay you in modern days time, you know, pretty well, but you know, stock option. And I mean, it depends. If you're at like the big tech companies, you can get the best of both worlds. But for the typical majority tech roles, you know, for the full-time, you know, big company, you're gonna get a good salary that helps you live your life the way you just need to live comfortably today, with no type of stock options. Where if you choose a small company, it's the opposite. You know, sometimes you can get paid. Sometimes you can get paid really well, but sometimes, you know, you're gonna be underpaid, especially the earlier you get in. But you also get such a large piece of the company as far as stock. So, you know, if you pick a good place that you're passionate about, you know, you could really just, you know, win out more long term. Going that smaller company route with the startups, if that's just your cup of tea. But it is, you know, a little bit more of a riskier one and a stable one, but you know, big risks yield big rewards. That's a really good quote. And yeah, there is a, you know, some stigma out there, you know, for if you want to be a contractor or more of like, you know, like an individual worker, not be tied to a full-time job. There is a big push to go to freelancing websites. Freelancing websites is great to get your initial experience. Maybe you don't have, you know, as much experience in a contractor type of role. Some really good companies to look at are Upwork, Turing, TopTal. These are just some good companies to start off with freelancing. But I do want to say that if you want to go into contracting, you know, just really use this as your very last resort, because there's just there's way more fruitfulness in being an independent contractor, because you know, any freelancing website, they're gonna get a chunk of whatever type of, you know, profit you do make. If you're looking for a more experienced contractor role, I would definitely recommend being independent. But if you're in the beginning stages, yeah, you can definitely start off with one of these freelancing platforms to just get your feet wet. And yeah, I just want to leave with this, you know, advice as well. It can be a tough process. You're going to get a lot of no's, and you're going to get ghosted a lot. Probably majority of the applications you're going to do, you're going to get ghosted. And that is to say, that is unfortunately the norm. Don't feel bad about that. Keep doing and keep going through the cycle of different things that I did mention in this video, and believe it or not, in no time you're going to be able to step into a software engineering role. And one of the best ways you can keep yourself occupied through this process is to learn or polish your skills. So yeah, just go ahead and learn those new skills that you do see on majority of those applications that you feel can make you a better candidate, especially if it's a skill that's required for a role you're going into. Yeah, you just really have to be proactive throughout this process, because it can get tough. I promise you, it definitely can, but you just have to know that you can do this. You have to believe in yourself. Okay, but now this one is like really my last point, and this is follow up. This is so important. Recruiters receive so many emails a certain day throughout the day. So when you're in the talks with them, no matter through what stage, make sure you do a follow up. If they said they'll reach out to you by, you know, a certain day or time, reach out to them the day after and just send, you know, a good follow-up email. There's plenty of follow-up templates, you know, things you can base that email off of online. Be genuine, still be genuine with it. But yeah, on that note, that is my video on, you know, how to find a software engineering job. This process is just truly yours. Everybody's process is going to be different, so do not compare. But this video has gotten way too long. Hopefully you love this video. If you did, leave a like. Also leave a comment down below to let me know, you know, how this video has impacted you. And leave a comment below to let me know if you were actively looking for software engineering jobs. Let's build a community out of this. If you know any open roles that would be really promising for people, post them below so other people can know about them and we can just get interconnected. But yeah, on that note, I'm just John McKin, and I'll see you all in the next one.